Hey all, hope you're well. So I've been asked a lot to show you how to make protein pancakes. Okay, so obviously you first need to make a pancake batter, and I am going to be using the FFL, the Fitness Freak Lifestyle High Protein Pancake Mix, which is freaking awesome. It's foolproof. All you need is water or milk. You add it to the batter, you mix, and it is done. So there's no complications here. It's already made. Right. That's number one. Number two, you need a very good quality pan. And I know a lot of people say, oh, but my pancakes stick to the pan, and they throw butter on and oil on. Waste of time. Get a good quality pan, okay? I use a ceramic pan. I don't need butter, I don't need oils or anything. I can just throw the batter on here, it does not stick. And you can get various different kinds of non-stick pans. Get a good quality non-stick pan. And you don't only use it for pancakes, there's a lot of things you can do with it, but get a good quality pan, okay? And they're actually not that expensive. Right, number three, how do you make the batter? So this batter can be mixed in a bowl. I mean, you can put it into a nice little mixing bowl or a big mixing bowl, depending how much batter you're making. And you need to mix it thoroughly, get rid of the lumps, etc. Make sure there is quite a smooth texture. However, I sometimes use my blender. I just find that it's quite easy to blend it. And in actual fact, I'll show you, once it has been made, it should be it's a thick texture, but it can still run, okay? A lot of people, when they make a pancake mix, I see it's too runny. If it's too runny, it's gonna run in the pan. It's gonna spread too thin, you're not gonna get a nice rise, and it might even stick to the pan as well. You wanna get a nice level of thickness, and obviously not too thick, because otherwise it's also not gonna run in the pan. It needs to have some level of viscosity. So you can see here, okay, it's a thickness, but it has got a nice level of viscosity. It's running quite nicely, and that's the kind of texture that you want. So when you are making the batter, make sure that if it is too thick, add a little bit more fluid to it, whether it's water or milk, and just get that texture quite nice until you realize that it's thick, but it's still got a nice smooth texture to it. Okay, all right, now let's talk about making the pancakes, and this is so important. A lot of people don't realize that the temperature that you put the pan onto on the stove is so vital. You cannot use a high temperature for pancakes. It needs to be a low temperature. What happens if the temperature is too high? You're going to crisp the pancake. It's going to burn on either side, or it's going to be crisp on either side, and the inside is going to be moist or wet. So you're not going to really get a nice texture through. The best thing is to keep it on a very low heat. It might take a little bit longer for the pancake to become ready to turn, but you're going to get the heat coming through the pancake and giving you a nice moist texture, okay? But it's going to have that dryness to it as well. It's going to have a nice texture to it. It's not going to be wet inside, and it's not going to be crispy on the outside. It's going to be more even through and through. Okay, so heat needs to be low. I use a gas stove. I put it on a very low heat. If you're using an electric stove, I'd say like maximum, maybe if it's a setting like 1 to 6, maybe a 1 or a 2, you know. So what you can do is you can put the pan on there, and you can let it sit there for a couple of minutes to get the temperature of the pan nice and even and hot, and then you can start making the pancakes. Let's get to it. Okay, pan is got a nice heat to it now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my batter. So generally I put around 2 tablespoons. I've got a pancake serving spoon, but which I bought, which is quite a nice size. But what I'm going to do is use a tablespoon, because most of you have got those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just 2 tablespoons onto the pan. And you can actually see that gives a fairly nice size pancake, okay? Actually quite a nice size if you have a look at it. Now we let it sit. Now there's another important tool that I actually need to show you. It's called a lifter, and you need a decent one, nice and thin, nice and square, something that can get under that pancake and give it a really good lift. Okay, so what I do is, how do I know when the pancake's ready to lift? You'll see some bubbles moving to the surface. So what happens is, obviously when hot air rises, when the heat rises, it forces air through the pancake, and you can see the bubbles rising to the surface and they pop. So the idea is to try and actually let those bubbles come to the surface, and eventually you'll see that they are not coming to the surface anymore and they're disappearing, and that means that Okay, the pancake is actually getting nice and cooked on the inside. And this generally takes maybe about, so on average around 60 seconds depending on the heat, it could be up to 2 minutes. But you'll know when it's ready to turn. I've probably got about another half a minute or so to go, and then I'm going to turn the pancake. Okay. And it is turned over, and you can see it gives a nice run. Something I wanted to mention actually, which I didn't mention earlier on, is that when you make the batter, once the batter's been made, don't use it immediately. Let it sit for about 5 or 10 minutes. There are obviously rising agents in there, and just give them a bit of a chance to activate and to get that texture quite nice. You might have to add a little bit more fluid in to get the texture right. 10 minutes later it might thicken a bit, but let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes before you actually start to use the batter. Don't just make it and use it, because it can change a little bit over time. So let it set a little bit for a couple of minutes. Okay, pancakes are done. Okay, so now all I've got to do is stack them, and I can stack them up, or I can cut them and stack them sideways. I'll stack them up today. I've also made an awesome protein chocolate sauce, which I'm going to use as a topping, and you can also use this as a binder. So what you do is you actually apply it onto the pancake, and then you layer it between each layer. So I have made a video on how to make that sauce. You can go and check it out on our site, and stay tuned. You'll see the final product. So there you can see I've got my stack. You can see that I've laid it quite nicely with that protein chocolate sauce in between, and all that's left to do is now top it, add a little bit of fruit, and I'm done.